feel tensions rising, I hear voices in my head. They counsel me, they understand. They talk to me, they talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do to you. They talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. They talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.
What's up, YouTubers? It's Harpie-Hunter89 coming at you from the Duelist Den, and I had an amazing time this past weekend at the Tulsa Regionals. Now, a lot of you have seen my Harpie Pendulum deck, the Harpie Pendulum Edition deck profile, and this past weekend I actually felt like a celebrity because round one I went up against Zeus. Granted, my Harpie Pendulum deck lost to Zeus. He was using some weird variant that used really freaking odd cards that I was not expecting, but he beat my ass. But anyway, after round one, every time I would start talking to somebody, inevitably there would be somebody who came up to me and just started wigging out, saying, "Hey, you're the dude with the Harpie Pendulum profile or Harpie Pendulum deck, dude. I want your deck list. I want to know what cards are in it. I want to duel you. That deck is amazing. I've heard a lot of good things about it." Well, because of all of that, you know, I felt like a celebrity, and it was really exciting seeing so many positive reactions to that deck profile. I almost did not rebuild the deck, but I've been wanting to build this variation of the Harpie deck for a while now. I just didn't have the cards I needed, but at the regional this past weekend, I got the cards I needed for it. Without further ado, this is the Harpie Harpie-Specter deck. So I hope you guys enjoy this. So let's jump right into it. Of course, we have the Harpie engine. We have 3 dancers, which lets you bounce a wind monster from your field to your hand and normal summon another wind monster. Now, if you have Harpie's Hunting Ground on the field, this lets you pop 2 spell or trap cards on the field. Next up, we have the 3 Harpie Lady Wands. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I feel that having 3 Harpie Lady Wands in the deck is much better than doing a combination of Cyber Harpie Lady and Harpie Lady 1. Merely because Harpie Lady 1 increases the attack of all your wind monsters by 300 points. And now with the Harpie-Specter engine in the deck, this effect is even more reliant. Next up, we have the 3 Harpie Channelers. Harpie Channeler, if you control a Dragon-type monster, its level instantly becomes 7. And once per turn, you can discard a Harpie card from your hand to special summon a Harpie monster from your deck. Now, the level increase with this build can be a little bit difficult, so you have to play around that, and you have to know when to bring this out, when to summon out your dragons, when to not summon out your dragons. But if you play it right, you can still get your rank 4s off with it. Next up, we have 3 Harpie Harpists. What Harpie Harpist does is when this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 Winged Beast type monster you control other than this card, and 1 card your opponent controls, and return them to the hand. So that's a compulse effect. The second effect is during the end phase of this card is in the graveyard because it was set there this turn, you can add 1 level 4 Winged Beast type monster or 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So outside of Harpie Queen, you can add any of the other Harpie cards to your hand. Or Harpie monsters, I should say. Next up, for the Harpie monsters, we have Harpie Queen. Harpie Queen, outside of being a 1900 beat stick, lets you discard it from your hand to add Harpie's Hunting Ground from your deck to your hand. So like Channeler, it is a search effect. And getting that Harpie's Hunting Ground to your hand is kind of important, especially if you're going up against something like Paleozoics or Chainburn, which is real back row heavy. Now for the Harpie-Specter engine, we run 3 Harpie-Specter Cats. Harpie-Specter Cat, like all the Harpie-Specters, can't be targeted by your opponent's effects and can't be destroyed by your opponent's effects. But in addition to that, during the end phase of the turn this card was summoned, you can add a Harpie-Specter card from your deck to your hand. Next up, we have Harpie-Specter Fox. Harpie-Specter Fox, when it's summoned, you can add a Harpie-Specter Trap card from your deck to your hand. So this lets you search out your Supercells or your Tempests. Next up, we have Harpie-Specter Crow, which lets you add a Harpie-Specter spell card from your deck to your hand. Now, there's only 1 Harpie-Specter spell card we run in this deck, and that is Cyclone. And Cyclone is really important because you contribute, or I'll get to Cyclone later anyway. But anyway, Harpie-Specter Cyclone is important in this deck, so you'll want to get to that rather quickly. For the last Harpie-Specter monster, we run 3 Raccoon Bumbokus. This lets you add any Harpie-Specter card from your deck to your hand, or any Harpie-Specter monster from your deck to your hand, so it allows you to easily get your scales in hand. Now, I don't run Harpie-Specter Toad merely because I wanted to even out my scales. 2 scales, 2 5 scales, and Toad is a 5 scale, and it really wasn't a big deal taking Toad out because I already had Spell and Searchers in here, or Spell and Trap Searchers in here. Next up, I run 1 Elegant Egotist. What Egotist does is if you control Harpie Lady, or if there is a Harpie Lady on the field, whether you or your opponent controls it, and not a lot of people know that, but if your opponent controls a Harpie Lady, you can still use this. You can special summon a Harpie Lady or Harpie Lady Sisters from your hand or deck. Next up, I run 3 Harpie-Specter Cyclones. Harpie-Specter Cyclone lets you tribute a wind spellcaster to target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So this is kind of important. Now, anti-targeting effects do get around this, but at the same time, if your opponent drops, like, say, Totally Awesome, and you chain this to the summon, or they use Totally Awesome's effect, and then you chain this to Totally Awesome's effect, you can get that Totally Awesome off the field, or you can get their Rat Peers off the field, or whatever, get one of their high boss monsters off the field. Next up, we run 3 Hysteric Sign. Now, this Hysteric Sign is why you only run 1 copy of Elegant Egotist. Personally, I feel running 2 would be better, but it does get a little bit cloggy. But Sign, when it's activated, lets you add Elegant Egotist either from your deck or your graveyard to your hand. And during the end phase, if this card was just sent to the graveyard, either from your hand or field, and sent to the graveyard this turn, you would add 3 Harpie monsters or Harpie cards with different names from your deck to your hand. The downside is you cannot use both effects on the same turn. So if you activate this and your opponent MST or Twin Twisters it, you don't get the search effect off either. Or the secondary search effect off. Next up, we of course run 3 copies of Harpie's Hunting Ground. This is the quintessential spell card of the deck. Merely because this is on the field, not only does it increase the attack of all your winged beasts by 300, but every time you summon a Harpie Lady to the field, and of course, all your Harpie monsters are Harpie Lady while on the field or in the graveyard, then you can destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls. So this works really great against Paleozoics and Chainburn. Next up, we run 2 Hysteric Parties. This is the Call of the Haunted for the deck. What you do is you activate this by discarding a card from your hand, and you special summon any number of Harpie Ladies from your deck to the field as is possible. So this allows you to get your mass summon of your Harpies off to go into your Xyz plays. Now, of course, with the Harpie-Specters, you run the risk of running out of resources, whether it be your monsters or your spells and traps. So you of course run the 2 Supercells, which let you shuffle 5 Harpie-Specter cards from your deck from your graveyard into your deck, and then you can draw a card. Now, most Harpie-Specter builds only run 1 copy of this. I think that is completely stupid and ignorant, because if you activate the first one, someone Twin Twisters or MSTs it, gets it off the field somehow. However they get it off the field, it could be a bit of a problem. So if you have the second one ready, you can use the second one to shuffle the first one back into the deck. Then you search the first one, then the second one can get destroyed, then you use the first one again, and so on and so forth. They can recycle each other. Next up, we of course run Harpie-Specter Tempest. This lets you tribute a wind spellcaster to negate the summon or activation of a monster's effect, and if you do, destroy that card. So this is pretty much the archetype specific Solemn Warning for the deck. Next up, we go into the extra deck. The main deck is 44 cards. You might say, why is it not 40? Well, it is 44 cards, and because of all the searching you do in this deck, it actually works pretty well. For the extra deck, we of course run our number F0 Utopic Future. We only run 1 copy of it. Utopic Future lets you attack. You don't take any battle damage from it, and if it gets attacked or attacks an opponent's monster, you can take control of that monster to the end of the battle phase. So pretty much lets you steal your opponent's boss monster. Now you can bring this out really easily because the rest of the Xyz monsters in this deck are rank 4s, and only 2 of them are actually number monsters. So you can pretty much use any 2 Xyz monsters in this deck to summon it. Then of course we have Raid Raptor Rise Falcon. This card can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls once each, and once per turn you detach material from this card to target one face-up special summon monster your opponent controls, and this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack. Now, boss monsters are usually special summon, so if you increase this card's attack by their biggest monster, obviously it's going to have the most attack, and then you can just attack all their special summon monsters during the same battle phase. Next up, we of course run the one Gaga Cowboy. You got to have Cowboy in the deck. Really, because you can easily get your opponent down to just like 300 or 400 life points with this deck, and then you just ping him for that last bit of damage. We run one Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller works really great in the Paleozoic matchups because it can stop the graveyard effects. It also works great against Cosmos if you happen to run into them. I've seen that those are starting to make a bit of a comeback, and it is rumored. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, that once Link Summoning comes out, Cosmos are going to see a huge increase in play again. Next up, we have Degusto Emerald. Degusto Emerald is pretty decent because it lets you shuffle monsters from your graveyard back into your deck, and then you get to draw a card. So it's a really great recycling effect. Now, with the banning of Harpie-Specter Unicorn, I had to come up with something to extra to make up for its effect. Now, the last build, the Harpie Pendulum Magician deck, only ran one Chidori. This version runs two to make up for the loss of Unicorn, which I really wish I could have kept in this deck. But, whatever. Chidori lets you bounce, when summoned, lets you bounce a face down, then you detach material to bounce a face up. Now the face down will go to the bottom of your opponent's deck, the face up will go to the top of their deck. So it's really good to keep your opponent's field clear. Next up we have number 82 Heartland Draco. What this does is you can detach a material to allow this card to attack your opponent directly. The downside is this is the only monster that can attack during that turn. But it makes up for it because as long as you can control a spell card, this card cannot be targeted for an attack. It is, however, still susceptible to targeting effects and mass destruction, so you got to be careful how you play it. Next up, we have one Ice Beast Zero Fine. Zero Fine lets you negate the face-up effects of all cards on your opponent's side of the field, and then it gains an attack increase for every face-up card on the field other than itself, both yours and your opponent's. So this is a really great beat stick for this deck. Next, we have the two Phantasmal Dragons. Now, with the Harpie-Specters being one attribute as well, you can use the Harpie-Specter cards to summon this out, as well as the Harpie cards. And what this does is it can attack your opponent directly and stops your opponent from targeting your Harpies for attacks or card effects. They are, however, still susceptible to mass destruction like Dark Holes and Regekis, but you can easily bring your Harpies back. The downside is during the end phase, you have to detach material from this card, and it only gains its effects while it has material. And of course, you have to run the Honor Arc just because, it's Honor Arc. We also run one Karen Gorgon. What this does is during your player's turn, when another card or effect is activated that targets exactly one card on the field and no other cards, you can detach a material to negate that effect and choose another appropriate target for that effect. This is pretty good. Like, say your opponent, I don't know, I can't remember the name of it. There's a Paleozoic card that targets one of your cards and banishes it. You can use this effect to negate that and then banish one of your opponent's cards. So this works really great against Paleozoic matchups as well. Then, of course, we have the Trapeze Magician, which of course requires two spellcasters. Once per turn during your player's turn, you can detach material, or during your player's main phase, you can detach material, target a monster the turn player controls. It can attack twice during that turn, but is destroyed during the end of the battle phase. Now, this works really great because a lot of the times I love doing this play. I'll drop Phantasmal Dragon on the field, get 3 direct attacks. My opponent thinks on turn 3 that it's out. My opponent usually thinks, alright, yeah, he's going to get his last attack off and start hitting his Harpies. Then I drop this bad boy, target my own Phantasmal Dragon, and get 2 attacks off of Phantasmal Dragon for game. And my opponents are usually just sitting there with their mouths open thinking what the fuck happened. The final Xyz monster is Evil Swarm Ouroboros. Now, Ouroboros has 3 effects. You can target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. You can send one random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, or you can target one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. The downside is you can only use each of these effects once while this card's face up on the field. So once this card's on the field, you use one of the effects. You can't use it again unless this card leaves the field and then comes back. So that is a bit of a downside, but with a 2750 attack point, it can get over a shit ton of boss monsters. For the side deck, we have, of course, the 2 Dark Holes and the Regeki. You obviously, you want to clear your opponent's field, especially since a lot of decks have cards that are untargetable by card effects. So Dark Holes and Regekis works really great to clear your opponent's field. Now, a lot of decks these days do a bunch of searching: Paleozoic Search, Cosmos Search, Zodiac Search. So having a card that can, you can use immediately after they do that search to discard the card they just searched is a great asset to any deck. Now, Imperial Iron Wall is in here mainly because of Paleozoics. Now, you might be saying, well, why don't you just run Necro Valley instead? It's a lot easier to protect, and you don't have to wait a turn after you put it on the field. Well, it's simple. Necro Valley is a field spell, and there are times when you don't want to get rid of your hunting ground, but you also don't want your opponent to banish your cards. Well, this gets around that issue because it doesn't take up your field spell zone, and it stops your opponent from banishing the Paleozoic cards that they need. Mistake is a great card because there are, like I said, a lot of decks that do searching. Zeus Search, Paleozoic Search, Cosmos Search, Blue Eye Search, Magician or Dark Magician Search, Pepe searches. Everything searches these days. So having the ability to stop your opponent from searching their deck is a great benefit. And you don't always need to use this, but if your opponent's going crazy with searches and they're going to do it again on game 2, having an out to it is really handy. Now, of course, you want to have some backup for your Harpie-Specter Tempest, mainly because you're not always going to have a wind spellcaster. If your opponent's deck can easily stop your pendulum summons, you're going to want a way to get around that and have a card you can use without the Harpie-Specters. So you side in 3 Grand Horn of Heavens. Grand Horn of Heaven works really great against Paleozoics because it can stop their toads. Works really great against Zeus because it can stop their any of their Xyz monsters, really. I can't pick just one because they're all fucking great. This is also a preemptive addition in anticipation of the Link mechanic because Link monsters are special summoned, and if you can stop them from getting their Link stones filled, that's always a great thing to do. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I would love to know what you guys think about it. Give me some suggestions if you want to. Please, only constructive criticism. Don't just go in the boxes below and say, oh, well, that deck sucks because it sucks, or it's great because it's great. Give me some actual, feedback on the deck, why you like it, why you dislike it, things like that. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And be on the lookout because this Thursday, I will be uploading my Gradle Kaiju deck profile. So until next time, this is Harpie Hunter 89 and the voices in my head signing off.
Take a shot at me, running side by side. It's a blur as I go by. I can hear you breathing. I can see you coming. I can feel the wind that's blowing me around. See the sun arising, fire